Okay. All right. I apologize. I closed my timer after all of that. Okay. So thank you all for showing up early to listen to me ramble, and thank you to all of my online students who are going to watch this later. So today I would like to talk about food. Specifically, we're all aware of the dangers of sugar, right? I mean, we all live in active denial of it, but we're all aware of the dangers of sugar. So what are some of the sweeteners that you've used instead when you've tried to cut back on sugar?
Maple syrup.
I love you. You look like you had
Honey, agave instead of sugar.
agave syrup. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's land on honey. All right, because that's actually what I want to talk today. I want to talk about honey, and I hate to break it to you, but honey is actually a far more dangerous sweetener than sugar. Now, the reason for this is not actually so much for your health as it is for the environment. Honey is actually a very irresponsible industry that's destroying our environment. And if we don't stop our massive consumption of honey, we may irreparably damage our local environment before it's too late. Now, I know, the media taught us to have a love affair with bees. The whole save the bees, where are our pollinators going? But the problem is that honeybees are actually kind of like an abusive boyfriend that moved in, mooched off your Netflix, and then scared away all your other friends so that you would have to depend on them. So I'm going to show you today, over the course of this about 5-minute speech, why we don't need the Western honeybee and why we would be better off without them. Now, just to clarify, we are talking about a difference between the Western honeybee, which is Apis mellifera, and the thousands of other types of bees, such as bumblebees and green sweat bees. Many of those other types of bees are native to North America. Honeybees are not. Honeybees were brought here in 1622 as a colonial agricultural animal, so they are not native to North America. This technically makes them an invasive species. Now, obviously they are not the only agricultural animal we were brought to America. We also brought cattle, horses, all those things, but the problem is that unlike cattle and horses, honeybees are actually phenomenally bad at their jobs. So according to Science Magazine article published in March 2013, ecologists studied the yield of fruit in 41 crop systems across the world. Pollination by honeybees specifically increased yield in only 14% of the cases. By contrast, wild pollinators from various regions increased the yield in all of the crop cases. So what that means is that in a controlled environment, they release these pollinators to see who would increase the yield of the fruit, and honeybees specifically only increased yield in about 14% of the cases. A little bit more interesting statistic that was put out by the U.S. Forest Service. It says that it only takes 250 mason bees, which is a metallic blue bee that's native to North America, to pollinate an acre of fruit trees. By contrast, it would take 10,000 to 250,000 honeybees to do the same amount of work. Also, they cannot pollinate tomato and blueberries at all. Tomato and blueberries require a buzz pollination, which is kind of like doing a little vibration dance against the flower to knock the pollen off. Honeybees are incapable of doing this, but some of our local pollinators like bumblebees can. So clearly, native pollinators such as bumblebees, sweat bees, bats, butterflies, hummingbirds are all doing a better job. But, is it still a problem to keep honeybees on a controlled environment just to raise them for their honey? Actually, yes, it is. Because the problem is not only is this abusive boyfriend totally deadbeat, doesn't have a job, but he's scaring away all of our other friends. Honeybees do not play nice with other native pollinators. They remove the nectar from the flower, whereas some other pollinators don't. So they increase food competition between honeybees and native species. They have also brought diseases. According to Inside Science from January 2017, disease believed to have been introduced by imported European bees called, hope I'm getting this right, Patagonian bumblebees, a species native to Argentina, to go nearly extinct. So imported bees are just like the colonists that came with them. They brought their diseases that wiped out native populations. Also because we raise honeybees in cramped environments on hives, under commercial conditions, that also increases the possibility for disease. So continuing to introduce commercial honeybees without the without the safety measures to keep them from infecting the wild population could cause many of our wild pollinators to go extinct before we realize what's happening. So what can we do about it? Obviously, education is our greatest weapon. So next time you see somebody posting on Facebook about, oh my gosh, save the bees, save our pollinators, you can be that person and reply and say, actually, we don't really need to save honeybees. We need to save native pollinators. It'll be much more fun than talking about politics, I promise. There are a lot of really great videos on YouTube that you can use to share without being too controversial. My favorite is one actually put out by the Film Theorists, which is the same company that does the game theory show. They put out one about why the Bee movie lied to you, which I can share with all of you afterwards. That's absolutely hilarious, and it links to some of these same articles, and it really goes into good detail about why that movie was wrong, and why we need to be more careful about what we talk about bees. Another thing that we can do, obviously, is plant native flowers. There's a lot of flowers that are that would encourage native pollinators to come to your garden, including stuff like aster, milkweed, and cornflower. The U.S. Forest Service put out lots of pamphlets showing all the different things you can plant. Remember, bats, butterflies, and hummingbirds are also native pollinators. So you can always build a bat house, put up a hummingbird feeder, build a butterfly garden. All these things are going to increase natural pollinators in your area. And last but not least, the kicker, we need to decrease our consumption of honey. The problem is that because there is such a drive for honey in the food industry, it's such a popular food, and it's being touted by health proponents as a good alternative, is that it's increasing the demand. And as long as the demand is there, the industry is going to be there. So we can do our part by increasing our consumption of honey. Some great substitute sweeteners is stevia. If you're looking to diet, it's a natural 0-calorie sweetener. If you just need your sugar fix, maple syrup is actually the best for you. It's completely native to North America. It's also minimally processed, and it includes less calories and grams of sugar per ounce than honey, and it also has several trace minerals, including calcium, potassium, and riboflavin. So again, it's not a sin to eat honey, okay? There are ways to responsibly source it, even on America. But if we just keep going this endless media campaign that says, save the bees, we'll save the bees, but we're gonna push the rest of our native pollinators out in the process. So again, just remember, when you're looking for a natural sweetener, honey doesn't have to be your only option. Thank you. That was a little longer for 5 minutes. It was 7.